Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of New Music Finds. So this is where I collect together everything that I've purchased over the past week, and I get it from different places like my local record store, but also online retail like Amazon, eBay, and more. For this past week, not only did we have a really great release day on Friday, April 21st, but the 22nd, Saturday, was record store day. So I've got all that stuff to run through with you, 20 total things to go through here. And we'll do that in just a bit, but before we get started, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on really cool episodes just like this, with new music finds and all the different things that I get and so forth, maybe sparking some new interests for you. So as I like to do, we kick off with new releases. And as I said, we had a really good release day this past Friday, April 21st, which was just a nice way to whet our appetite before going into record store day. And the first thing that I picked up was Jethro Tull Rock Flute, brand new studio album from Jethro Tull, and it's been only 15 months since their previous album, The Zealot Gene. So really cool that they've just churned around. I mean, after not releasing an album for like 22, 23 years, they've now released two in only 15 months. So very cool. And this one here, I have to say, I actually think I like better than The Zealot Gene. Aside from the opening track, which has some narration on it that's kind of strange, after that, from track 2 on through the end, I really like this album. Highly recommend it. It's got a very classic feel to it, for me at least. And if you've been a fan of Jethro Tull in the past, you might really like this one. So I do recommend checking it out. Give this one a spin. And we got another one from a classic artist here, Ian Hunter, former Mott the Hoople frontman, doing a new solo album here called Defiance Part 1. I hope there's a Part 2 to this. It's got 10 tracks, so maybe there's 10 more in waiting. And it's on Sun Records, which I just thought was a cool thing to be, for him to be on that label, where they've reactivated that recently. Very cool album. It's got a lot of cool guests on it. It's got, Jeff Beck plays on here. Taylor Hawkins, so unfortunately some guys that have passed away, but we've also got members of Guns N' Roses and stuff like that. And I wasn't expecting much from it. The last few Ian Hunter albums had been good, but they didn't really blow my mind. And this one here has been way better than expected. And it's got great production value and everything. So again, if you fan of him in the past, or Mott the Hoople, maybe check this one out, because I'm really digging it. It's something that is definitely getting more spins from me than I initially anticipated it would. Next one up is one that I did have very high hopes for, and it did not disappoint. I'm so glad. The brand new album from Angel, Once Upon a Time. Don't know what number this is. This one here, maybe 6th or 7th album, but it's the second one since they reunited. And we just got 2 of the original guys. We got Punky Meadows on guitar, and we've got the original vocalist in here. And I don't think that they sound anything like they did back in the 70s, but I don't have an issue with that. The last album was so good for what it was. New, sound and everything. It was just great music, and this album continues it. So if you liked the last album, the reunion album that they did before this one, you're gonna love this one. If you're looking for it to sound like they did in the 70s, that's not unfortunately going to be the case, but I wouldn't say don't check it out, because it's just good melodic AOR rock stuff. And cool album cover. Look at the guys there. Booklet inside is full of photos like it should be. It doesn't waste the space with just lyrics and nothing else kind of stuff. So that's kind of cool. It's on the Cleopatra label, which unfortunately is a hit or miss label, but this has very good production. The songs are very catchy, so definitely digging that. Another one that was of interest, Revolution Saints, and this is because we're down to just Dean Castronovo from the original lineup of the Saints. And now we've got 2 new guys joining up with him. Jeff Pilson, formerly of Dokken and with Foreigner, and then we've got Joel Hoekstra from formerly of Night Ranger, currently with White Snake. So a lot of good guys there joining up with him to make this. But, you know, when you lose so many members and you continue under the same name, I always kind of question that a bit. But I know this is one of the Frontiers Records projects where they own the name and they're just going to keep it going for that purpose. And if they lost Dean Castronovo, they'd probably keep the band going too. They've shown that to be the case with Sunstorm when it was built around Joe Lynn Turner. Then Joe Lynn Turner left and they just kept it going with Ronnie Romero. So, but this is good. If you like the later day era Journey stuff, that's what this was written to mimic. And you've got Dean Castronovo singing lead, and I've always thought he was an amazing vocalist. Wish he'd just be the lead vocalist for Journey, but he said he never wanted to take that sort of spotlight. I guess with this, they're not really out touring or doing that, or it's a much smaller deal, but he didn't want to do it for Journey. I am glad to be getting him doing some live, or sorry, not live, but some lead vocal stuff like this, because he's just so amazing. Usually only sings one song or so live with Journey, but now we've got whole albums with him, and this one here is another really good one. And then we got Axel Rudy Pell, Ballad 6. Cool thing with this, so a compilation of the ballads that they record, but this has 5 tracks that are new to this collection. 3 with vocal, 2 with instrumental, and 2 of those vocal ones are cover songs. Diamonds and Rust, of course, made famous by Judas Priest doing a version of the Joan Baez classic. Them doing another one very similar to the Judas Priest one, but just as good. And Dust in the Wind, the Kansas song, and they do an outstanding version of that without having the violin in it. They do an amazing job of making it their own, and I really like what they've done to that. So Axel Rudy Pell, great musician, phenomenal guitar player. If you're not familiar with him, I do recommend checking his stuff out. All right, so moving on to the other big release date, it was Record Store Day, April 22nd of 2023. Lots and lots of great titles and stuff came out. I got 8 things here. First one up for me, Pearl Jam, Give Way, a live album recorded in Australia. This one was very cool to get it. I think it was a fan club release that finally is getting a wider release. Still not a full release to everybody, but if you went out to Record Store Day, you could get it. Ringo's Stop and Smell the Roses album back in print on CD for the first time in quite some time. What I always liked about the Ringo albums is he would get songs given to him by Paul McCartney, John Lennon, George Harrison, so really cool, Harry Nilsson, writers and stuff like that, and he'd put his own kind of quirky twist on those sort of things. But I always liked that, and of course he just always had a lot of cool musicians playing with him. So while his albums are never really been that popular, he's never really had that big of hits. I don't know, I've always liked the albums. This one, no difference. Definitely been enjoying it. Glad to finally have it in the collection now. This one here, very limited. I think only 200 copies on CD were released. Eric Carr, Rockology, done like one of the Kiss solo albums, even though Eric Carr wasn't with them at that time when they did those in '78. It's done to look like that, and so they created it around his persona of the fox and gave him the orange, color different than the other colors that were used. But very cool. So I already had the studio album of this that was also called Rockology that came out, I want to say it was the late 90s, but might have been the early 2000s. So it's getting a reissue here, but they've added on 5 unreleased tracks at the end of it, some alternate versions and stuff, and a couple additional studio recordings and things. So that's very cool. You also get a poster with this. Let me pull this out and just show you. For those of you that weren't able to get one at Record Store Day. So that was something that was also done in the Kiss studio solo albums. So, really kind of following it to a T to create something that can go hand in hand with that. I know all the diehard Kiss fans out there were loving that. Ramones, Pleasant Dreams, the New York City mixes. It's an alternate edition of the album Pleasant Dreams, which I think was their 6th studio album. What's very cool about this is that while not very much different from the final release of the songs, it doesn't have any of the keyboard or that 80s latent production sound on it. So you want to hear what, sort of classic sounding Ramones, a version of that album, this is it. I didn't know what to expect getting it. I just knew it was alternate editions, and they called it the New York City mixes. But basically, it's the completed album before they went in and embellished it with backup vocals and keyboards and stuff like that. And I find this album so much better than the actual one that came out. I hope this gets a CD release at some point. Ted Nugent, The Vault, Volume 1. It's got studio rarities and alternate takes of the Free For All album. So it does the track listing and everything in the same order and stuff, but it's got all these alternate additions, some guide vocal, early rough mixes, Derek rough vocal versions, and so forth. So very cool to get that, finally digging into the Ted Nugent vaults. The recording is a pretty quiet recording. It's not bad if you have to turn it up, but I was kind of surprised at how low it was. So it didn't just kind of jump out at you, but you did have to turn it up. But still clean nonetheless. They did a nice job repairing the tapes and stuff that they found in order to get these versions. And as I said, this is a volume 1, so hopefully we're going to get some more of those things, and maybe even a box set CD edition at some point. Rich Kids, title of this one, Ghosts of Princes in Towers, their one and only album from '78, featuring Glenn Matlock of the Sex Pistols and future Ultravox vocalist Midge Ure, as well as you've got Rusty Egan and Steve New joining in on this. But out of print album, very cool, new wave sounding band at the time. I didn't know much of it. This was just a impulse buy for me. Once I saw the guys who were in the lineup, I was like, I've got to pick this up and check it out. The Pixies demos. So this has 9 tracks, and as I was reading on the liner notes, it's demos. They recorded, I think, 17 demos, and a bunch of them turned up on the first album and stuff like that, and the 9 remaining tracks appear here, finally getting to see the light of day. I believe this to be a UK only release. It was sent to me by Cooking Vinyl, who also sent to me this one, Frank Black, live in 2006. I did an unboxing of these, a preview, so to speak, before Record Store Day, but really glad to get them. I hope you got yourself some Cooking Vinyl stuff as well that you can enjoy. They put out about 10 things, I think, which was kind of cool to have so much stuff coming out from such a great record label. And then I made a trip to Sound Exchange, not as part of Record Store Day. I mean, I was there for that too, but I was up there doing some other stuff. And of course, I had to pick up some things, and I was really digging 10cc album that I had picked up, Deceptive Bends. And so I went up and picked up 4 more 10cc albums. So I got Bloody Taurus, which has the song Dreadlock Holiday that they were known for. Look Here, kind of a weird cover there with a sheep on it on a daybed, on a beach. But I have to say, I'm really, really digging this album here. The first 2 tracks, 125 and Welcome to the World, are outstanding, but I'm loving the rest of the album. So I wasn't sure what to expect, but just fell in love with that album. Also picked up this one here, which is Windows in the Jungle. This one's got quite a few bonus tracks there at the end of this thing. It adds on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 additional tracks. The original album only has 8 songs, so you're getting almost an entire album's worth of bonus material with this one here. That one's taken a little bit more to warm up to. And then I haven't found this one on CD, so I picked it up on vinyl. 10 out of 10. I was intrigued by this one because the US edition of this album, they went in and did different track listing, dropped some songs, added some, trying to make it much more commercial for the US market, so having a different feel to it than the UK edition of it. So I wanted to check that out, and I'm also really, really liking this one as well. Hope to be able to find a CD edition of this one eventually. Just like the album cover too. That was one of the first things that grabbed me with them, was seeing this and just saying, hey, I need to check out who this is, like really give them a good deep listen. Just found that I liked the later era stuff, where 2 of the original members had left the band by '78 and gone on to do their own thing, and the other 2 remaining guys continued on and became much more of a sort of pop rock band. And I just have liked that better than the more experimental stuff early on. But I am going to go back and check that stuff out and try to give it a fresher listen once I sort of have digested all of this. So I will be exploring more of that stuff. All right, now I got some other stuff in the mail. I got this cool Uncle Sally compilation called Made It in America, a glam metal band from the late 80s into the early 90s. Just part of that era. If you're a part of that era and promoted as such, I will classify you within that. But they're a good, just hard rock band kind of a thing. And selling it on eBay, if you're looking for some good sort of rare, glam metal sounds. Uncle Sally was a local band from the Florida scene that never got a, major label signing. Did put out some EPs on cassette and a CD during that time frame, but never really hit it big or anything. And it's cool to see that they gathered that stuff up on this release here. And I would recommend it. Check them out. I'm sure you can probably find some stuff to stream somewhere. And go check that stuff out. Give them some props. I always enjoyed them back in the day and was glad to get some stuff now. And then from a bootleg website that I go to, and I'm going to give you guys the name of the website, and I got so many people asking this, so I'm hoping everybody is going to listen to this. rzrecord.jp. That is the address. All right, rzrecord.jp. It's a Japanese website. Does great high quality bootlegs. I've never had any complaints with the stuff. Some stuff has higher quality than others, but that just comes down to the recording. But nothing has ever been so piss poor bad that I've been disappointed with it. Case in point with this right here, Cozy Powell's Hammer, the Lost Reel Masters. So good. This is studio recordings. They made some 7-inch recordings back in the day and apparently did some instrumental and some other stuff in the studio and whatnot, but never recorded a full-length album, never put anything out other than, I think they might have released like one 7-inch or something. But the 9 tracks that are on here just sound great. And we've got Cozy Powell on drums, we got Bernie Marsden on guitar from Whitesnake, Don Airey on keyboards, Clive Chapman on bass, and Frank Aiello on vocal. And Frank Aiello does a great job on vocals. Not sure where he came from or if he ever went on to do anything else, but this right here was so good. That was a great surprise. What I was really ordering from this website was Joe Perry and Friends 2 live shows that feature Gary Cherone on vocals. And since Gary Cherone is out on tour with them right now and recorded a couple tracks with them for his new sort of, reissue of his last album, Switzerland Manifesto. They're calling it now Mark II. I wanted to get a live album of theirs, and this is some pretty good live quality stuff. Again, this is that, I'm not gonna say it's lower end. It's not soundboard, but it is really good quality stuff nonetheless. And I know a lot of guys who love live recordings would probably absolutely dig this. There's a little bit more audience sound that I like on it, but after track 1 or 2, it gets really good. So it is pretty typical, band comes out, they're playing, they got to finagle the knobs a little bit. That happens on here, but after that, it's really good. So I'm glad I got a hold of it. We've got Gary Cherone on vocals, Brad Whitford, Joe Perry's Aerosmith buddy there on rhythm. Then we've got Chris Wise on bass from The Cult, Buck Johnson and Dave Goodstein rounding out the lineup. And 2 complete live shows doing a lot of great stuff. So there you go, 20 different things that I got this past week. I mean, an amazing release week, an amazing record store day time, and just some other cool stuff that I picked up in the interim. Hopefully you guys also had good release weeks, getting things and so forth, and a good record store day. Certainly let me know what you guys got, and hopefully the stuff you saw here maybe spark your interest to go out and check some things out. All right, everyone, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.